The corporal works of mercy are charitable actions for the good of all humankind and basic human welfare. They reflect the Catholic Church's teachings on social justice. The corporal works of mercy are to feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless, visit the sick, visit the imprisoned, and bury the dead. Today I will focus on one specific corporal work of mercy, that is our responsibility as Christians to feed the hungry. Jesus said, "Whatever you do for the least of my brothers and sisters, you do for me." Both the Old Testament, in Isaiah chapters 58 verses 6 through 10, and the New Testament, in Matthew chapters 25 verse 34 through 40, are the biblical origins for the corporal works of mercy. According to Pope John Paul II's encyclical, Rich in Mercy, Jesus Christ taught that man not only receives and experiences the mercy of God, but that he is also called to practice mercy toward others. Just about all of us have experienced hunger at one time or another in our lives. The reasons we have been hungry vary greatly. Some of us from dieting, others from extreme poverty. The difference is that people living in extreme poverty do not have a choice about whether or not to eat. We the faithful are God's hands and feet on earth. We are called to be Christ-like to the poor and hungry. Today we will examine the specific corporal work of mercy to feed the hungry as a Christian response. We will examine widespread world hunger. We will also look at a few ways to help alleviate hunger. First, let's look at why we must live the corporal works of mercy. As Christians, we learn a lot from our sacred scripture, the Holy Bible. The central message of the gospel is love. In John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35, Jesus says, "I give you a new commandment. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you also should love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." When we love one another, we care about the well-being of one another. When we care about one another, we are motivated to take action to ensure that one of our loved ones is not suffering, in this case from hunger. How many of us would let our mother, father, brother, sister, or friends starve? It's probably safe to say that we wouldn't. Sometimes it's easy to ignore something or someone that is not immediately in our everyday lives, but as Christians we cannot ignore. We are called by Christ to be his hands and feet, which involve taking action. According to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the corporal works of mercy are not optional, but are absolutely essential to living the Christian life of holiness and goodness. Now that we comprehend our responsibility as Christians to the corporal works of mercy, let's examine some dire statistics on world hunger. Did you know that at least 2 out of every 3 people on earth live in poverty? They represent the 2/3 world. According to the Human Development Report, every 3 seconds somewhere in the world, a child dies as a result of malnutrition. That is over 1,000 children every hour, 30,000 children every day, 10 million children every year. If any of you have visited a stadium, try to imagine this. If you filled a large stadium every morning with children, for example, Camden Yards in Baltimore, by evening, every child would be dead. Nearly 800 million of the world's 840 million malnourished people live in developing countries, including 150 million children age 5 and under. In U.S. households, over 33 million people, including almost 13 million children, experience hunger or the risk of hunger. Overfed people in wealthy countries equal the number of the world's hungry or malnourished people. Hunger is a symptom of poverty and inequality and not of food scarcity, because the world produces enough food for each person to receive between 3,000 to 4,000 calories per day. Although the statistics may seem overwhelming, the good news is that we have the power to make a change. As God's hands on earth, we can and must help end hunger. 30,000 children are dying each day, a problem that we can and must fix. The following are some ways to get involved. Learn more about the causes of widespread global hunger. Advocate for the hungry and support policies that address the needs at home or abroad. Act in solidarity with sister parishes to supply nutritional food for people in depressed areas. Organize church or school programs providing food for homebound, elderly, and sick people. Volunteer your time to cook and deliver wholesome food to the needy in your community. Support faith-based and nonprofit groups that sponsor soup kitchens and humanitarian aid for the poor. Never waste food. Many millions of hungry people could be fed on food wasted in the United States alone. Share your meals with those who cannot afford to buy their own. These are all ways that we can and must help. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 35, Jesus said, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food." Jesus calls us to feed the hungry and reminds us that when we are feeding the hungry, we are loving one another as He loves us. Today we learned the following. We learned about a specific corporal work of mercy to feed the hungry as a Christian response. We learned some information about hunger in the world. We learned a few ways that we can and must alleviate world hunger. I hope that you will think about the statistics we discussed today, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of people. Each number represents a person made in the image and likeness of God. If we are to be God's hands and feet on this earth, we must respond to the issue of world hunger out of love for God. We must be concerned for the least of our brothers and sisters. Finally, tomorrow is International World Peace Day, the perfect day to commit to saving a life.